All right, on today's episode of Work in Process, Chelsea and I talk about, is it worth it? Some design and construction details that we often see, decisions people make, and they add some difficulty, and we talk about, are they worth it?
Yeah.
Would we do them or would we not?
Mm-hmm. We talked about kind of some of the planning that comes into play and maintenance issues.
Some controversial topics, maybe.
Some hot takes.
Some hot takes.
And some things that we found in our own remodels that maybe we thought were worth it, but now we don't.
Yeah. I am proven a hypocrite a couple times. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different things that we could talk about. So maybe we revisit this in another episode and do it again because there were more on the list than we had time to get through. All right. Is it worth it? Details on a house. So we're going to go through a list. I'm going to throw out a list and we'll talk about a variety of details that people ask for. And we're going to discuss kind of the difficulties or at least how to put those details in and whether or not it's worth it.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see. All right. I'll start off with shade pockets. Yeah. So a shade pocket is essentially it's a recessed cavity in the ceiling that hides the shade roll, essentially. Yeah. It requires a lot of planning in the framing stage to make sure that your framing accommodates for it. Wiring has to get there, control, all that stuff.
And then like finishing it out.
Yeah. So it's the idea is that it hides it, but that's not easy to do necessarily. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think? Is it worth it?
I think it depends on.
We can't say that.
Well, okay, true. If you've got, almost all of these.
You can say, you could definitely say that, but yeah.
If you have, if there's nothing holding you back, yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think, I do think that it's worth it if it's in a house that has that modern, simplistic aesthetic.
Right.
Sometimes they get pushed into projects that don't require it necessarily, and then it's like it's not worth it.
Why bother? Yeah, I agree.
All right. Here's another one similar to that: flush baseboards or no baseboard details, where essentially either the baseboard is flush with the drywall, or there's no baseboard at all, just goes all the way down to the floor. Definitely, again, requires a lot of planning before you do it. You got to have blocking in the wall so that you can attach those things. The drywall has to be done really, really well so it planes out nice and clean. And then in the case of no baseboards at all, you've got to think about the transition from the floor to the drywall. What does that look like? How do you keep that on install clean?
Yeah.
For me, I've done this a bunch, and I think it's not worth it.
Interesting.
I feel like you can get the same, essentially the same feel with a very thin, minimal kind of baseboard, which I've also done, that doesn't require near as much planning and is much more forgiving on installation.
That's true.
So
I do wonder how they hold up over time. Having not lived in a house with no baseboards. Yeah. This is kind of hitting home for me because in the house I'm remodeling, I actually I have baseboards in the rooms with drywall, but I did what you're suggesting where I'm trying to make it as minimal as possible. In the bathroom, we rabbeted out the back of the baseboard so it sets up against the framing and just barely covers the drywall. I think that was actually more difficult to pull off. And then in the other rooms, I did a little really thin baby, baseboard, not same height, but just really narrow. And I actually am wondering if it's going to warp or cup over time.
Yeah, so that's one.
Don't say it's going to.
No, not necessarily. But that is one of the difficulties if you make it thin. When it's thicker, it has some rigidity to it. So if the wall is a little bit bowed.
And there's a few spots where it you can tell it's bowed out a little bit because of the wall. so far, and I'm in the process of painting them, and they just kind of are disappearing,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then my living room is tongue and groove paneling.
Oh.
Haven't cut that. There's no baseboard. I don't know if it's worth it yet or not because I haven't done it. But
Yeah.
I think kind of with the shade pockets, it depends on the aesthetic of the house.
Mhm.
I think sometimes it's worth it. Generally, I think going for the no base, just drywall down to the floor is not worth it.
I don't think, like you said, it doesn't
Or if
really
there's
hold
like
up
really
over time.
fussy reglet pieces, I don't know if I'm into that.
Yeah.
Just because of it's a lot of effort.
So kind of with that, like no trim doors,
Oh yeah.
right? We talked about this where your jam basically comes out proud, or slightly proud or flush with the drywall. And then you could do a reglet detail there, or you could just finish your drywall right into the backside of that door jam. What do you think about that?
Well, I have I have this condition in my bathroom, and told the painter who recommended I not do it that I would just caulk the crack if it happens.
So worth it for you?
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
If that's, as long as you're okay with the trade-off of knowing that like it might need a little upkeep to look fresh, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's worth it too. I like it. I think it's a good detail. It can be hard to pull off, but when it is pulled off, I think it looks super clean.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, all of these maybe go back to if it fits in the design of the home.
Well, it's just there's so many options with trim and casings and all the little extras that cover gaps that you can really add a lot of character to your home and how you approach those details.
Yeah, for sure. All right. What about curbless showers?
I mean, are we I guess we don't need, there's nothing to explain really.
No,
right?
so a curbless shower
There's
is
no curb.
You don't have to step over anything to get in. The floor in the bathroom just starts to slope down to a drain inside of the shower. It takes a lot of waterproofing details. You have to drop the foundation in that area if you want it to plane out with the finished floors everywhere else. So it does take quite a bit of planing and waterproofing. But it's the super clean finish, and it looks great.
I think they're really nice. I would like one. I opted not to do one in a remodel that I'm doing right now. It's not worth it to me.
Okay. Another thing I think that a lot of times people forget or don't think about if you're using a large format tile, in their mind, it's the whole floor is the same. But really, once you start integrating a slope, you have to cut the tile.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really beautiful ways to do that. But I think that has to be thought about. I think they're worth it.
It's so nice, especially if you're like trying to create a home that's like good for aging in place and like not having to worry about potentially tripping over that.
Yeah. I do think I'll break my own rule. It does depend on the situation, like in a remodel, for example. It is not always worth it because then that might require some significant structural changes to the framing.
Yeah. But I do think in a new house, like if you can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What about, so that kind of brings up the question about wet rooms.
Yeah.
So where you've got your shower and your tub are all kind of within the same space. And it's been a trend for a while.
Yeah. They can be really helpful if you're kind of short on space and you don't have the circulation to get around a tub. You could put the tub at the back of the room and then have the shower right in front of it and then just put a glass between it and separate it all off.
I definitely like it. When my kids were younger, I was constantly freaking out about them splashing water out of the tub.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Making a mess everywhere.
That's cool.
And if it's in that wet room space, then have at it, do what you want. Speaking of handheld shower.
Oh, yeah.
Don't like those.
Oh, what?
So I have them in my house. I just never use it. Literally
Not
never
even
use it.
like for the dog or something?
Yeah, I guess that's true for the dog, but it just sits there.
Well, I've never had one that like I used on a regular, like in my own home, and I just I did opt for one, but it was mainly because I wanted to be able to wash the dog really easily.
Yeah.
But those wet room areas, I used to say, yeah, worth it. But I have mixed feelings now because you brought up a point with one of our clients who didn't want one. They were worried about everything getting wet. I don't really care about that as much. But you said that people have said that it's harder to get that area really warm because it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I like taking super hot showers. So
Yeah.
now I'm like, I don't know if I'd want that for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
They
right.
look cool though.
All right. Well, let's stick with the shower theme then. And what about no door showers where there's just a single glass panel and there's no door?
Yep. I'm into that.
But what about the heat?
Don't care. I'll go back on my previous comment because it's worth it not to have the door swing there. And like, I've got a super small bathroom and I just bought this panel that's like, it's actually like fluted glass, like kind of frosted looking. And I just think it works well.
Yeah. I think if you've got, I like it also. The only difficulty really that would make it worth it or not is a little bit of planning and spatial sort of organizing so that water doesn't get out.
Yeah. If you got the depth there.
But yeah, not having to open and close the door and be able to just walk in and out, I think is pretty great. I don't take hot showers really, so it doesn't, that wouldn't be a thing for me. All right, let me check off our list here. Oh, here's one that we do a lot, hidden doors. So hidden doors, that would be something that, I mean, it could be an access panel. It could be a full-blown door that leads to another room.
A lot of times they're in like slat walls or paneled walls so you can kind of hide seams.
Yeah, and it does take a lot of coordination, a lot of specialty hardware, a lot of planning on, the weight of the door, the swing of the door, the width of the door, how it might line up with these slats. I would say, to me, generally, they're not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not that it's gimmicky, but it's you don't get a lot of return on it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's like worth it with the caveat that like the space needs to be hidden or it's like this surprise thing. But just for like an everyday, just for the sake of a hidden door, nah, then it's gimmicky, I think.
Yeah. I still stand by my not worth it, but I've never built one and said, oh, that wasn't worth it because they all look so good.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. They do look good. They're cool.
I've never regretted any of the hidden doors that we've built.
That's funny.
So I don't know.
You just convinced yourself.
Yeah. All right. Let's stick with the door theme now that we're onto that. Pivot doors.
I have kind of gone back on this. I think, it's so hard to say that it depends. I think they just only work in certain instances.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the fact that the opening has to be so much wider in order for you to get the usable opening. And unless you know that and plan for it really well and have the space for it, I think a lot of times they just get squeezed in where they shouldn't. I don't like them because they're very hard to seal, whether that's for bugs or for air. And so I would prefer not to do pivot doors.
I think the only pivot doors I've seen that I like are like Tom Kundig, like cabin in the woods, steel, super custom, and like super simple.
Yeah.
And I probably will never have the budget to do that. So generally probably no.
They do allow you to get some oversized doors that can be, like you said, custom and beautiful. But for everyday use, walking in and out of a 6-foot wide, 12-foot tall door, I don't know. Yeah. Not for me.
Fair.
Pocket doors. What about that?
All of them. I love a pocket door.
I don't know. I'm going to say no. Yeah. If I can avoid a pocket door, I'm going to. There's just so many difficulties that go
Yeah.
on in the
They
construction
are,
part
they
of it.
can be, I know. And I think like they can be a pain because
Yeah.
they end up taking up more space than like, I mean, they don't physically in that there's no swing,
Yeah.
but you have to always account for the fact that like that wall cavity is going to have a door in it.
Yeah. For me, it's like
And the movement.
I've got a pivot door, which means it's always open. Oh, sorry, pocket door.
Yeah.
Which means it's always open. It's just like getting your finger in there and pulling it out. Like it's too much.
Wow. Swing doors only for the lazy man.
Yeah. But it's like, the complications of one, really installing it properly so that you've got a nice straight wall and that the glide functions properly.
We do. I mean, it is a thing that like I feel like they're finicky.
Yeah.
And
there are some really great pocket door frame companies, but like with most things, it comes down to the installation and they can just be tricky to install.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about, if I'm, do I need to put blocking in there if I'm putting cabinets next to it or light
maybe
switches,
even having a thicker wall there.
having a thicker wall, things like that. I think I would just, unless, like, obviously they serve a purpose.
Certain spaces
have to have them.
Yeah.
In my own renovation, I switched a swing door to a pocket door because there was no room for swing and it was always a pain having to walk around the door.
Yeah.
But for me, generally, they're not worth it.
All right.
That's my.
It's a big difference there.
All right. Let's see what else we have here. So recessed cans and air conditioning grills that are mud in, so frameless, right? Yeah. So just small aperture or I guess large aperture holes in the ceiling that have no trim around them at all. Mm-hmm. Takes a lot of effort from the drywall contractor, but also from the electrician or the HVAC contractor to get everything at the right elevations and lined up properly. The sequencing of getting the mud rings installed after drywall is hung, but before it's been floated, typically requires something like a level 5 finish. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm very mixed on these. Like, they're a pain, but I do think they look so good. So I think it goes back. It's similar to the shade pocket thing where in certain instances, like it feels like the architecture calls for it.
Yeah. For me, I think they're totally worth it because I feel like I like a well-lit house, which requires a lot of lights, but I don't want the ceiling to be all mucked up with all these different things. Less so, I guess, if it's a really tall ceiling, it doesn't matter quite as much. But like at my house, I've got an 8-foot ceiling and I don't have trimless recessed cans, although they're pretty minimal. If I'm looking straight forward, there's all these clutter. Yeah, that's a good
Visual
word for it.
clutter,
So to me, if you can swing it, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth the effort. All right, let me go through the list here. So we talked about that. What about bocce outlets? So these are the little outlets that are circular and flush. So there's no faceplate that goes around it. It's just a round outlet that typically we put into a stone backsplash or in cabinetry on the sides of islands that have waterfall edges. I don't know. What do you think? What?
That should be waterfall edges should be in there.
Oh yeah, well we could talk about that.
Well, okay. I think if you can avoid putting an outlet there at all, putting it somewhere else, do that. That's first. And then if you have to do one, those are better than the kind that are just like the standard whatever.
Yeah.
But I really don't like them. Like I just don't, the thought, especially in like a countertop, like a backsplash or something, it's just like, it's like a shame to me. It like hurts my heart a little bit to see that hole there.
Yeah. I agree. I think they're an amazing product if you have to put something there, but there are a lot of creative ways to meet the code and not have to expose
Yeah.
an outlet like that.
Yeah. Especially with the update for islands.
Yeah. Waterfall countertops. What do you think about that?
Barf. No, that's not entirely true. But like, unless that countertop reads like a big chunk, like a big block of stone.
Yeah.
In that case, yeah, do it. That's awesome.
Oh, so it's like not
But
just on the one side,
if it's just
across
like
the face.
wallpaper, no thanks. That's not my vibe.
I'm gonna disagree. I like it because it does add a heft to whatever it is that it's showing off.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm thinking about some instances where we've done it with things that are not stone, like steel maybe.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Or even I've done a butcher block countertop that I have run down the side.
I just want to see some thickness to it.
Some thickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
It
Okay.
looks real.
But yeah, for me, it's worth it. I think it's a really great feature.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, sticking in the kitchen. So like no hardware, push to open cabinets, push to close. What do you think about that?
Does it have to be push to open?
It doesn't
push
have to be,
close?
I guess.
Could it just be like no hardware with like an integrated pull or something?
Okay, well let's put those two as separate things. Okay. Let's say
push. Nah,
yeah.
don't like it.
I don't think it's worth it at all.
And also, don't you feel like every time I see those, it always feels like something's not right? Like
Not
they
aligned.
Yeah.
They require a lot of adjustment.
Yeah.
And not just initially, like over time.
Right.
Ones that get used more are a bit more loose. I absolutely appreciate the clean aesthetic where there aren't a bunch of little bumps and things. But I don't like the hassle
it's not worth it.
of it. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Now, the other one where no hardware, but you've got maybe, I don't know what you're thinking, but
like either on the front
like a
side,
recessed.
there's like a lip or it's recessed on the top.
Yeah.
I always call them integrated pulls.
Yeah, for sure.
I love those.
Yeah. I think those are worth it because those don't really take any extra effort.
Maybe because like if you have a veneer on something, don't you have to have a solid piece on the top side to like cut into?
That's true. Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
It's not that
worth
hard.
it.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. My kitchen's that way. So.
Oh, nice.
So I'm biased, I guess. We skipped one in the shower. Linear drains. How do you feel about linear drains?
I like them. I used to like them more. More and more, I think that they're not worth it, I guess. I don't like them as much as I used to. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I've done them in a variety of ways over the years, and typically they get put up against a wall.
Right.
And we've done some where the design is on a sidewall.
Oh, I was gonna say that. Yeah. That's
and so
weird.
it looks beautiful. It's great. But then when you're standing in the shower, you're kind of leaning to one side.
Yeah, like your left side's lower or something.
And
they should be at the front or the back.
Yeah, or straight down the middle.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That feels like something where you'd like hose off an animal.
Like for symmetry wise, those are the options.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks good that way.
Yeah, like a car wash.
Yeah. I know it's a cool feature that you can put tile.
Oh yeah.
In the grate,
yeah.
So it's just a slot. I don't like it.
Even in like a normal one?
Even in a normal one.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't like it. It feels very commercial to me.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I like that.
But I would say generally, yes, linear drains, I think are worth it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's nice not to have a drain to step on. It always feels like I don't really want to step on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We talked about wet rooms, showers. Jump back to the kitchen. All right. Cooktops or sinks in an island. So that causes a lot of, not problems, but consideration. So if it's a sink, you have to be able to vent the drain, which means you're putting in a loop vent. Some parts of the country, they put in a Studer vent, I think it's called. We're not allowed to do that here. So we have to do a loop vent, which is...
Wait, I don't know what that is.
So a Studer vent is basically, it's it's an open cap that's a one-way vent, so that it allows air in, but not sewer gases out.
Oh, okay.
And it's typically located underneath the cabinet.
Gross.
Or inside the cabinet. Yeah. But we're not, it's a pretty normal
Okay.
thing, but we're not allowed to do them here in the city of Austin. So we have to do loop vents, which is
okay.
basically you've got your vent creates, so instead of going, typically the vent stack just goes up and out. This one goes up, creates a loop up above the level of the sink, and then comes back down. And then somewhere, I think it's within 10 feet, it has to go up.
Okay.
So it's logistically more difficult, but we do it all the time. So it's not, if you have a sink up against a wall that has a huge window, sometimes you have to do a loop vent there as well. And then if it's a cooktop, you need to have a vent. So that's either a downdraft vent or that's one that hangs from the ceiling. All right. So those are the conditions. What do you think? Worth it or not?
No. It's a big minus to me. You know, I think in rare occasions where you have no other choice, fine. I would never put my sink or range. That's like, I feel very strongly about this one.
Yeah, you do. But so your island is just a top that's uninterrupted.
I don't have an island, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I don't want any. I love cooking and baking, and I really value that counter space.
Okay.
And I think that the like, I'd rather have one big open space for like hosting and setting things out and like rolling out dough or whatever, and put all the openings and interruptions in like a back wall or side wall or something.
So for me, I don't have any problems putting a sink in the island, depending on the layout, if it calls for it or not. But yeah, I'd never want to put a cooktop in an island because of the venting. The downdraft vents, the downdraft vents just do not work as well. And I don't want something hanging down.
And hanging,
I mean, I'm not saying never.
Sure. Yeah.
But to me, it's not worth it.
If you can avoid it.
It's not worth the hassle of having to design around that.
Yeah.
2 dishwashers? That's a thing. Is that worth it?
Why? No, I mean, I don't know. I guess it kind of comes back to me to I don't know if there's any like technical difficulties in like putting that in. It's just the space.
Yeah.
Space
We're
requirements.
just planning, really.
But to me, planning for like the once a year, twice a year events where you might need them both just seems not worth it. But I had someone tell me recently, I don't know if it was you, that like someone just has 2 dishwashers and they basically work out of one and then fill up the other. So they're just, dishes are never in cabinets.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
So I guess you could like save on cabinets there.
For sure. I don't know. For me, it's so, with the high efficiency dishwashers, like our dishwasher takes a couple of hours to run a cycle. And I don't know, there's 5 of us in the house. Dishes accumulate fairly quickly. I think if you have space, I think it's worth it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. And it's really, the planning is not a big deal. It's an extra appliance,
it's just having
for
the
sure.
space and
But I like the idea that I could just always have clean dishes.
Maybe they should make bigger dishwashers.
Bigger dishwashers. I have seen they do make commercial style dishwashers for residential applications where they wash dishes in like 3 minutes.
That'd be awesome.
But I think they're really loud.
Yeah.
And they use a lot of water.
Yeah.
But that's, all right. Marble countertops in the kitchen.
Do it.
So I should explain.
It's more about like maintenance, I guess.
Yeah, it's very porous, so it stains very easily. Some people call it a patina.
I call it patina.
So I think.
Yeah, typically the recommendation is to go to something a lot more durable.
Yeah, I think it's a preference thing. If you think it's beautiful and you're fine with the patina, then it's worth it for sure.
Yeah. I think as long as it's more about expectations and knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I was actually at Elizabeth Street Cafe with my husband like a couple weekends ago, or maybe it was last weekend. And they have a marble countertop at their bar that gets a lot of use.
I'm
and
sure.
actually we were there for like around brunch time, and the bartender was like shaking up drinks and was like hitting the shaker on the edge to like
And it was all
knock out
chipped?
and that edge actually had tons of chips all over it, but it almost was like evenly rounded off.
Yeah.
And it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy to me that they're doing that, but there's a lot of like wear on that countertop. Obviously, commercial space, but it's kind of cool, like old European vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I like to see as long as it's not messy.
It's got to
I like to see where.
Yeah. It's got to fit the rest of the atmosphere.
It's like when you go into an old building that has marble steps.
Yes.
And
or
they're
like a
worn.
threshold and there's something kind of nice, or a handrail.
Yeah. All righty. How about this one? This one I've got some things to say about. Wall hung toilets. How do you feel about that?
Well, should we explain like what goes into that?
A wall hung toilet. So a typical toilet sits on the floor. You've got a pipe that goes down through the floor. And that's the drain pipe. And then you've got just a shutoff valve that comes out of the wall that supplies water to the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy to install, very basic. Wall hung toilets, there is a steel frame that gets mounted in the framing or in the top out stage into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be bolted in, it's got to be leveled, it's got to be set at a particular height. And then that carrier system holds the tank and it holds the water that comes into it. The shutoff valve is inside the tank. There's an access panel that remains exposed that gets covered with what they call a flush actuator, and that's where the buttons are to flush it. And then the toilet gets mounted with these large bolts. So the toilet doesn't touch the floor at all.
Just like most commercial applications would be.
Yeah, exactly. It requires you to know what kind of toilet you're putting in early on in the process. It requires you to know how high you want the toilet to be. And you have to really think about what your finished wall is going to be.
Yeah.
If it's something not super hard, then that can sort of sag or dent over time. I don't know. For me, it's like, I like that it doesn't touch the ground, so you can clean
it's
really
nice.
easily. It's not a lot of stuff. It's simple. It's just the toilet. But we've just had a lot of difficulty over the years installing them. You have to know depths, like your wall assembly thickness, and if you change that at some point, that can affect it. If your framing isn't set up in a certain way, when they get installed, they can end up getting loose, and then your toilet wiggles a little bit.
Oh, that's annoying.
I don't know. There's just, again, kind of goes back to the other one. Installation has to be done properly, but there are so many different ways that it can not be done properly that it is tricky.
Yeah.
So my take is that they're not worth it.
I've never had to like help coordinate, I might change my mind if I had a project that I was working on here with them, but if I had the budget, I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing so again, I'm installing one at my house right now.
Wait, what? You can't say you're not.
But
I guess you can. Maybe that's convinced you.
It's in a powder room.
And
it's small.
Powder room,
and so it takes up less space. So I felt like I didn't have an option. Now,
honestly,
something that I did to myself, the whole wall has tile on it, but the tile has a profile.
Okay.
It's got like an edge that runs diagonally. And so when I go to mount that toilet, I'm going to have to grind down each one of those tiles that's behind the toilet so I can get it to sit tight. But I didn't want to give up the toilet, and I didn't want to give up the tile. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But that's a really good point. I would say, especially in a small space, the impact is bigger. And same with like a floating vanity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to gain that floor space back.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm a big hypocrite, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know a lot of these. All right. Oh, kind of going with that, wall-mounted faucets.
Yeah. I
Similar
love
thing.
those.
You basically the one big difference here is there are no shutoff valves. Like a typical countertop mounted faucet, you open up the sink base, the cabinet underneath, and there's a hot and cold shutoff.
Mm-hmm.
With a wall mounted faucet, that doesn't exist. So you either have to plan for it and install those in a recessed cavity or somewhere where you can access it, or you don't at all, which not advised, but you could.
Wait, do you have those in your powder bath?
Yeah, I do.
Outed. So where are your shutoffs?
So I've in a sidewall. So next to the powder bath, there is a coat closet, and so there's an access panel there. I also put a shutoff for my wall-mounted toilet, even though that there is a shutoff inside the tank.
Yeah,
you have to pull the flush actuator off to get to it. But I figured if I'm putting these other, I could quicker.
So do you have a like a floating sink or floating vanity or a regular vanity there?
No, so there's nothing yet, but it's basically it's just a steel frame with a sink sitting on top of it, so exposed everything. So I didn't want. Yeah,
that's fair.
It's very small.
Okay.
So yeah, it saves space. To me, they're not worth it. I don't know. I don't know if can I actually say that. I don't know if I can say that. But
I think especially when you're in the middle of it, you're like, this is such a pain.
Yeah.
But maybe you'll change your mind when it's all done.
Yeah, they are beautiful. So in my boys' bathroom that is new, I put one in there as well. And one of the things that I thought I did a great job with, you really have to know, depending on the fixture itself, some fixtures are very unforgiving. Like you have to have that thing set to the exact depth that it needs to be in order to screw on your levers and the spout. And this one that we had like zero tolerance at all. It was like a quarter of an inch. And I knew what tile I was using. I knew my wall assembly. I had everything planned out. What I didn't think about was we were using a large format tile on the wall. And so the tile installer ended up putting a much thicker mortar base underneath it. And so it pushed it out far enough. And so I had to basically MacGyver something because my levers would not. I couldn't get them to sit and get the set screwed to sit. So I had to hack apart this other and attach the internals. And anyway, I got it to work. It looks amazing, but it was a hassle that I don't think was worth it at all.
Bummer.
And maybe that's on me. Maybe I did a bad job.
Is there a way to like tell ahead of time if it's going to be a faucet that has some forgiveness there?
For sure, yeah. If you have to get it early because you need the rough valve that goes in the wall that gets
you'd have
put
to
in early.
But you'd have to like have it.
You would have to have it to know. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we put in a speaking of handhelds, we put in a handheld one time that. There wasn't, so a lot of times you have essentially a bar that the handheld is connected to, and then there's a separate attachment that is the water connection to the hose. Well, this particular bar was also the attachment to the hose.
Oh, yeah.
Which meant where it attached to the wall is where the water had to be. Well, this one didn't have an escutcheon. It was literally just the actual thing coming out of the wall, and there was zero forgiveness, like at all. So not only did you have to have the depth set exactly right, when you cut the hole in the tile,
it better be.
It had to be dead on and small.
Oh wow!
Turned out, and when it's done, it looks amazing. It's beautiful, but it's to me, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right.
What about you? You think they're worth it?
I mean, I haven't installed one personally, so yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, it's with the toilets and
I think it depends.
It looks
like
nice.
in special areas, in a primary bath, I think it's really nice.
But it is key to install those shutoff valves. All right. All right, let's go outside the house. Exterior insulation.
Maybe it depends on your climate, but I like it. And I say do it if you can.
Yeah, I think so. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
It does add cost. It does add difficulty, but putting a blanket over your house, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of like, regardless of where you are,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
It's like the long game thing. Like
Yeah.
it's something that if you do on the front end and like maybe you sacrifice something that's like a finish or something that you feel like you're going to enjoy more, you can always do that later. But that kind of thing has a big return, I think.
Yeah, I totally think it's worth it. Tilt turn windows?
Who cares? I think I'm not like, I don't know. There's certain things to me that I'm like, I just can't remotely get excited about different kinds of window. Like I say put fixed everywhere and have operable where you need them for egress.
Yeah.
And beyond that, I don't really care.
Yeah, I think this one definitely does depend where you live. But here in Austin, I'm the same way. I don't need to open a window unless it's required for safety. I do have tilt turn windows in my house.
Who cares, Daniel?
But
I mean, they're cool.
I don't know. You know what?
Yeah.
I do think they're worth it.
Yeah.
I like to be able to only slightly open the window if I want to.
Yeah.
And still have it basically not have it because it doesn't take up a lot of space. So a tilt turn window swings in.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to open a window, but you don't have the room for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like them.
Cool.
Okay, here's one we talked about. Artificial turf.
Nope.
Nope.
I know somebody, it's funny, one of my friends just got some recently and I had made a comment about it, I guess, because she asked me about it. I was like, no, don't do that. Like just plant something or be okay with it. Was, they've got 2 kids and just having something that's indestructible and they have a really shady backyard where nothing was growing. I think if you get the right kind that I think like some of the cheaper older versions were like bad about getting hot or like letting things actually drain. Like as long as you get a good one, I guess that's fine. I personally not into it.
I gotta say, installing artificial turf at my house is one of the best things that we ever did as
That's
far
hilarious.
as decisions being made.
Yeah.
So we, when we first bought the house, we did a lot of landscaping on the outside and created this big area for the kids to play. And the question was, do we do grass or do we do turf? And we ultimately decided to go with the turf and not having to worry about irrigation, not having to worry about it getting like beat up by the kids and the dog.
And isn't yours sort of like, well, I think I've just been to your house like once we met a client and walked around and maybe for a BS and beer thing. It feels like it's like in its separate little contained area too.
It is. It's got basically rock wall all around it.
Yeah, it works well because it feels like it's its own thing.
Yeah. But I do agree, you got to get the right one. But I mean, it's just so, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to mow the grass. It always looks good. Just go out there with the leaf blower, blow it off, and it looks brand new. So for me, totally worth it. I would do it 100 times again.
Nice.
All right, let's see. What else do we got? Oh, outside. So here's one that we do a lot that maybe doesn't apply to everyone. But if you have a flat roof, you have to drain the water off the roof. So you can either use like internal roof drains or you can use scuppers.
Which are like holes out the side of the...
Holes out the side, which can be connected to a downspout or not, or a rain chain.
Yeah, love a rain chain. That should be another one.
Rain chains, no.
What?
No.
Oh, I'm putting rain chains on my house.
Really?
I love rain chains.
Oh, no.
They're so cool.
I've seen too many rain chains, I think, that are gaudy that they put a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay.
Like big.
I'm going to get some with like big butterflies or something. And now I'm just doing regular links. Okay.
So the internal drains, the trade-off is you don't see them.
Yeah, which
right?
is really great.
So you don't have to change the outside or accommodate the look of the exterior for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if they leak, they're leaking inside your
Yeah.
house.
Ugh, that makes me so nervous.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least from the design side, like I try to avoid those things. I really don't like the idea of running something through. And I know that they can be done right.
Yeah.
But it just makes me nervous. I don't know. I don't have strong feelings because I actually don't like the look of either.
Yeah.
Like I don't like the thought of the internal, but I don't like the look of a lot of scuppers.
Yeah. I've had issues with both.
Okay.
Scuppers can also leak into a wall. They have to be detailed properly. So to me, I think that the internal drain, the roof drains, I'd rather just not see anything on the outside of the house.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think do the roof drain, but make sure you do it well. And some say
So do you think it's easier to do the roof drain well than to do the scuppers well?
I think so because
Okay, I'm changing my mind then.
yeah, I think so because it's there's something about it's a lot more just regular plumbing.
Yeah.
Whereas the scupper
It's on an
requires so
edge
much
and-
flashing.
Yeah.
Especially if it's on a parapet wall.
Yeah.
You've got to flash the inside of that parapet wall properly, roof all of that properly, but then also the outside, you have to make sure that it's got a very good drip edge. Otherwise, that water can come back.
And a lot of times you see that evidence of problems on the side of the wall.
I've had an issue in the past where we've put scuppers into catchments and then down into drains that are mounted on the side. We had an issue where those didn't have an overflow in them. And they got filled with leaves, it backed up, and then you basically have water sitting in a bucket up against the house, and it caused some problems. And then they just don't look good.
No,
I
they
think.
don't.
The one thing is, I would say if you do have the budget for it, is on the internal drains, the roof drains, is to use cast iron because all that water flowing through your house, you can hear it.
Oh,
if it's not done properly.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, but I think that to me, that's worth it. It's worth the risk. All right, what else we got? Finished concrete floors. What do you think about that? So, to do it well, you've got to protect it from day one all the way through the end of the project.
One of our assistant project managers about that this morning.
Yeah. You've got to protect it when it gets poured and is curing from trees that drop pollen and leaves. And then throughout the construction cycle of any spills of chemicals or, if you want to make any changes at any point, you're going to have to cut through that floor and it's kind of too late. So you have to plan it. So I don't know. I really like a well done concrete floor.
Me too.
I'm going to say undecided. I don't know if it's worth it or not.
I think this to me is a little bit like the marble countertops thing where you have to be okay with it not being pristine.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there probably will be, even if everything comes out just right, like concrete kind of has like its own, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if you're okay with that, then do it.
Okay. I think that sounds good. Yeah. I've had instances where kind of like with any natural, it's not a natural material, but it is sort of a naturally created finish, or
it's like organic,
yeah. Where people's expectations have been unrealistic.
Yeah, because you see like a rendering or maybe even a really great photo where you actually don't get a sense of like what it's like.
Yeah. And that goes with like hairline cracks and things like that too. It's just part of it. Like it happens.
Yeah.
But people realize, oh, wait, I don't want to see that.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Go back into the kitchen. Panel ready appliances.
Always.
Okay.
Hide the ones that don't have panels.
Yeah, so panel-ready appliances, basically, it's covered by cabinet skin, so it just looks like a cabinet. It fits in with the cabinets, as opposed to it being stainless steel or seeing glass or whatever it is. I'm the same way. I think they're worth it. I would much rather see a beautiful set of cabinet doors than a variety of, even if it's a nice finish, the different types of finishes they have on appliances these days. I think I would just prefer to see the cabinet.
And I mean, I say that, but I don't have any panel. I don't have any panel ready, so apparently I don't think that. But yeah, it's kind of a shame when you see a room, especially with beautiful cabinets, especially like a stained cabinet front.
Yeah.
And then it's broken up by an appliance, and it could have just been like kind of one continuous look.
Yeah. I like that. All right. I got more things on our list, but I think this is maybe we save some of them for another show. But this has been fun.
Nice.
All right. So worth it? Not worth it? I think this was worth it. That's it for another episode of Work in Process. Thanks for listening. If you've got a question, a topic suggestion, or want to start a project with us, send an email to hello@risingerbuild.com.
You can also find us on Instagram at risingerbuild_ATX or on YouTube by searching Risinger Build. We'd love to hear from you.